You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hey folks, welcome to the Chris Voss Show. The Chris Voss Show here, Chris Vosslandia. Ladies and gentlemen, there are these things that makes official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you but doesn't judge, at least not as harshly as the rest of the world, because you're here trying to improve your life, make your life better. Listening to these wonderful, fine people that come on the show, share their stories of life, adventures, etc., etc. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today's featured author comes to us from bookstolifemarketing.co.uk. With expert publishing to strategic marketing, they help authors reach their audience and maximize their book success. Today we have another amazing young man on the show. Jim Reuther joins us on the show. He has a book out August 6th, 2019. It is called Gunky's Adventures in the Land of Must Believe. We're going to get into some of the details of his story, his journey through life, which is pretty cool. Jim won a BA of chemistry, an MA in chemistry, and PhD science. He won it. That's what it says. In 1984, he retired as associate professor after advising a scholarly research of 5 PhD and 7 MS graduates. In 2015, he retired from a global nonprofit think tank as a research leader in chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosive weapons of mass destruction and defense. He's traveled from Alaska to Afghanistan as a subject matter expert, investigating fires and explosions and defeating improvised explosion devices, reducing fireballs and skin burns, collecting forensic intelligence on weapons of mass destruction, and demilitarizing chemical weapons. Welcome to the show. How are you, Jim?
I'm fine to be here. After reading that, yes, I'm very happy to be here.
It says you won a BA in chemistry. So did you win it?
That's the terminology that's used in the
Is
old
it
days.
really?
It's not a given. People say, oh, I could have gotten a PhD, but the words that were used at the award ceremony at Penn State University was that you won the highest earned degree. And my father would hear that. My father was a third grade educated man, truck driver. He dropped out of school for the Depression. He was a truck driver. He was a roach coach driver. They call them food trucks today. And combat vet, Philippine jungles with his bulldozer and revolver. And at that award, he said, I heard the word won. That impressed him. And he goes, I have a third grade education. Let me give you some advice. You can't argue logic with an idiot because they don't understand logic. Again, those words were meaningful to me, and I've captured them and put them in my story.
Give us any .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
It's JIMREUTHER, aka Gunky.com. All lowercase and all no spaces.
So give us a 30,000 overview. What's in your book, Gunky's Adventures?
It's in a land of must believe. It's an alphabetical anthology of diverse short stories and poems. And since it's the alphabet, there's 26. That's how I can use the word diverse. There's something in this for everyone. If you look at the titles, there's a wide range of topics, stories that happened to me, people that I met, interesting circumstances. Each story begins with a provocative title. I'm going to try to get your attention with a title. For example, I'm going to say Close Encounters of the Hooters Kind, Taming of the Screw. So I play on words. The last one is Ziggity Zaggity Blinkety Blink. And that's so they're provocative, they're funny, and you're not going to get them. Flicking is dangerous to your career. The one I like, it goes with our broadcast experience so far, is Jinx Comin' 3.
Jinx Comin' 3.
Question mark. There's always 3 things. 3 celebrities have to die. But it's diverse stories, provocative titles, playful and profound poetry, and then lots of puns. I like to play on words. Now, I'm going to take you on an adventure and into Gunky's world from every story. You will not expect where you wind up because there's twists and turns in the roads on this adventure. And at the end of every story, Gunky's going to ask a question. He's going to have a wondering, and he's going to go over what just happened. And he's going to wonder how he handled it, how he addressed it, and what's going on next. Now, I'm qualified to do these kinds of stories and to put you through these different circumstances and emotions because I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good was a great wife, 36 years, 2 great kids, great career. The bad, of course, is the passing of her and her friends. And then I've seen the ugly. As a PhD molecular spectroscopist and chemical physics, all those words, I'm just good at it. I don't know why. I've seen the ugly. I've been in several war theaters doing different things, and I just wanted to appreciate life more. I can go the full spectrum. I'm a self-proclaimed light whisperer. You could say my career involved light and how do you make it and how do you keep it from burning people. Also a life whisperer. That's essentially what I'm starting to feel as I get on in this career. And what I want to do is I want to have you cheer, chuckle, and cry along with me when you read these stories. I want you to experience my ups, my downs, my break-evens, and then finally, I want you to consider what you have left over after the good, the bad, and the ugly in your life. So those are the experiences. The biggest challenge I had, too, were, 1, bearing my soul to the world about these stories, and 2 is I had to use words. As a scientist, I usually can get away with technical jargon and equations, but I had to use words, and with words come the emotions.
Now, is there a basis to this story, to my understanding, that this was kicked off by your late wife's note, afterlife love letter, and wish?
That's exactly right. I have a co-author, a late wife. We struggled with the cursed disease for many years. And it was an up and down battle. She was a survivor. She was resilient. One of the aces that I had in my hand when this is going on, and she had an occupation, a special occupation. She was a nurse, but a special kind of nurse. She was a hospice nurse. So unbeknownst to me, she was effectively handling me as one of her cases and getting me ready for the inevitable, because in the end, we knew she was going to pass away of this cursed disease. So she was preparing me. She was doing bereavement counseling on me by the way she was acting with me and doing it. I did not know this until after it was over.
Wow.
So she passes away, and her story is A, and then I is the first thing I wrote in terms of in my scientific career. It was my love letter back to her. I wanted to document the events that occurred on that famous night. And they were remarkable. In her afterlife love letter, she talks about the first night that we ever met.
Wow.
And it was by default. She was by default. I went out, we were at a fraternity sorority party, and we were going to dance with the co-eds, and I wanted to dance with the blonde in the middle of the dancers. And my roommate decided to play a joke, and we both went around and tapped her on the shoulder at the same time. Fate would have it. Now Cindy, the blonde, turns away from me. I'm standing there looking, a dope, a frat guy. And I looked down, and there's this short, dark-haired Russian co-ed. And I looked at her and I said, "You'll do." And she looked back at me and said, "You'll do too." And it was love. It was love at first insult.
First insult.
So that's the way we lived. We would always say something to each other, sarcastic, always with love, never mean-spirited. We never really had any fights or arguments. We disagreed a lot, and then we would argue and say we're both wrong and get the right solution. But it's like she always got the last word in it. For example, in our 25th anniversary, we're going to go to the World Cup in France. One of the other things in my career is I'm a former professional soccer referee. So I have science, soccer, and now I'm trying to be a storyteller. So I asked her, she said, what's your major? And I said, engineering. She goes, I hate engineers. Your mustache looks stupid on you. Her father has a mustache. So it was like back and forth. So So we're going, we're going to plan to go to the World Cup, and she's diagnosed on my birthday. And she said, this was in January, and this is going to be in June and July. And I said, we can go. And she said, no. She said, we can go. I said, no, this is more important, your health and recovery, chemo and surgeries. She says, no, we really should try to go. And then finally, I just got fed up and said, 25 years I've been living with an idiot. And she looked at me with a straight face and said, don't worry, dear, you'll get used to it. So she talks about that first night of You'll Do. In my love letter back, I wanted to write back to her thanking for that. And I will recount her last night with me, which and I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but the significance of the date, I'll just give you half of it. I met her on December 3rd, 1969. She was failing in the end. We had to take her into the hospital for, and we thought it was just going to be for hydration and some pain meds and things. But walking in, her eyes told me that she was in serious trouble. And I said to myself, I don't think she's going to make it now. So we went there, we called the kids, the angels in the hospital the nurses in the hospital were angels. And we were around with her when she passed. And about an hour before she passed away, she put her arms out looking to be helped up out of the bed. And I thought she just wanted to go take a pee again. But it was not that. She was trying to hug me. She was trying to have the last dance with me. My rock and roll girlfriend, I always called her that. That was a moment. I didn't think that, and I was just overwhelmed with emotion, as you can imagine, flashbacks. And she lied down, and then about an hour later, as I held her hand, her eyes were closed. She slowly would fade away, but at the last moment, she would look straight at me. And she passed away on December 3rd.
Wow.
And what she was telling everybody, she was a very courageous woman. I mean, she had courage. She had, she knew what was happening. And I wanted to talk about her courage and her dignity, the grace that she had, and the willpower. She was sending a message that she was going to pass away on that date. There's more to the story that you'll read about, more than that.
Wow.
So that's the love affair that we have. I call it, because I'm biased, it's the greatest love story that I ever had. But those are the remarkable moments that I have and will recount in the book. And there are a lot of others, but that's
Definitely,
really so. Yeah,
definitely moving, heart-wrenching, and touching. Very much so.
And that's the whole purpose. I want to pull on your heartstrings, because my heartstrings were pulled.
Yeah.
I want to touch your heart. By writing that second story, and it's called Inspirational Inferno, and I wrote a poem about it, about candle flames, why they're lit. I wanted to heal my heart, but by writing the book and now by sharing it and having other people read these stories, I'm healing other people's hearts.
Yeah.
I'm getting them through grief. And Gunky, when he wonders, all he's wondering is to think and wonder what options you have in all circumstances, because there's always hope. There's always something better. The rest of the story is after she passed away, we had to do the perfunctory things that you have to do at a passing. You have to go to the funeral parlor, and my daughter went with me. My daughter was so strong during this. We had to identify the body, all these things. And then we would have to have a viewing and a ceremony. So a lot to go through. And to me, it was a blur, but I wanted to write down as much as I could remember. I came home to my condo. I'm sitting in the very room where her study is. In fact, her ancient desk is over in the corner. And I spilled some stuff on my dress pants, and now I'm going to have to go to the viewing. So now I'm preoccupied with laundry. So I go to my laundry on our little condo, and now I had my first critical moment. This is where I crashed and hit bottom, and it's remarkable. I looked at the washing machine, and I didn't know how to work it. It crushed me. I was defeated. I'm a PhD chemical physicist. I've worked with sophisticated electronics and devices the world has never seen yet, 5 years in the future. I was measuring the temperature of fireballs from roadside bombs to see what the skin burn injuries would be. So I know technology and I know devices, but the wash machine intimidated me. Now I'm frustrated. I go into the study, and I also had to pay a bill. to pay for the different things that you have to do. And again, those are hard to do. And I want to tell everybody that it's not easy to do to be brave and be bold and be comfortable under these circumstances. They're very tough. Everybody's going to go through them and has gone through them. I've lost several friends. So I'm looking in her desk drawer to find her checkbook. And it was there that I find a notebook. And the notebook is entitled, How to Get Along Without Me.
Oh, wow.
Now, I could feel the pressure. My heart is crushing. And then I looked at the bottom and it said, for a dummy. She got one more zing in on me. She premeditated this. She was planning this.
Wow.
I opened it up. The first page is laundry.
Really?
Dirty, dry bottom, wet, washed top. And she had a little drawing, a little picture, and she's pushing where to push the buttons. It was a how-to guide on how to go on.
Wow.
Now, this is not a new concept. I don't want to claim that she's the only one that's ever done this, but she was leaving me a gift behind that is a treasure. I mean, and I've known other people that wrote love letters to their families after to be read at their viewings, and it's extremely touching. The next one was you have to feed yourself. Take pictures of what you like and go to the grocery store. She knew that I had this aversion about grocery stores.
Oh.
I grew up very poor, very poor. I mean, a meal was a gift. We never exchanged gifts for Christmas presents. Our gift was to be together and have a meal. So I have this thing about going to a supermarket and seeing 2 full rows of dog food. I mean, one of the charities that I champion is food insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
So she knew that I would have to get over this, but it was a how-to guide. And there's jokes in there that we can go on. There's a lot of inside jokes, but that was the gift that she gave me.
Wow.
So here's the thing. I mentioned it in my opening. The ups, the downs, the sideways, the break-evens. That was my father's expression. He said, he lived to be 83. And his gift that he was given, that he retired from northern New Jersey as a roach coach food truck driver to become a milkman. Back in the day, his job was to put milk, eggs, and butter on people's doorsteps, pick up the empty, and to record it. Very simple thing to do. He was very proud of that. I mean, given his education. And I would tell I would tell friends that this was his profession. They go, milkman? And years ago, they would never get that. Now they're called Uber, DoorDash. Everybody's getting things. I mean, it's incredible how the evolution of things. But he was proud of that. He was proud of the fact that his gift was seeing over 50 years of sunrises in his life.
Wow.
And he could remember a lot of them. He used to let us ride along with him when there was, 3 feet of snow and we have to deliver the milk uphill both ways in upstate New York. But he would let us ride the ice blocks in the cooler. We would play like a rodeo on the blocks of ice and slam into the wall. Lots of fun. But that was his gift. He talked about breaking even. In his last words, he said to me, I want you to do better. And they always stuck with me. So those are some of the life. The wife, I say I have a life wonderfully lived despite all the circumstances. But that's the range of emotions that I'm going to give you through. I'm going to recount these stories. They're populated in the book very deliberately. I will go from the most intense story that many people have read, and that's the Afterlife Love Letter and Wish. In which she tells me, you must write your stories and poetry to share with the world. So she told me to do something. And it would be years later that I said, I don't know if you know, it's a British television program. There's a barrister named Rumpole of the Bailey, and John Mortimer is the author. But he used to say to his wife, she who must be obeyed. And that's so I had to do what Teresa, with an H, had told me to do in her love letter. So but then I filled in the letters between A and I with stories. I deliberately picked, when I had the stories, I had to pick them to begin with the right letter. I will switch up. So I'll go from the very intense, serious, sincere stories to something lighthearted. So the second story is beware of troopers busting hippies. So I'm gonna pull on, as I said, I'm gonna have you get intense, be serious, and then go silly, And then in some of the stories go strange. I mean, I have little topics for each one of them to give you a flavor of what you could read. I have an appreciation for nature. So again, I'm going to talk about sunrises, my father, stargazing with my kids, trees. I've written poetry about trees. When I came back and met my mother after I started my career back in the 80s, she was concerned that I was too hard of a man. She thought that in the dangerous work that I was doing. And she said, you need to get in touch with kinder, gentler things. She was concerned about me. She could pick up the fact that I was hard-hearted. I didn't think I was, of course, but Mom is always right. And she said, you need to do something that's pleasant. Poetry. She said, write me a poem about a tree. It was a challenge. So she was the inspiration for my writing poetry.
Wow. Is that when you first started writing?
That's when I first started writing with words. I laughed. I said, me, a poet? No, I mean, I looked at her and I said, what units do you like your, Helmholtz number in? And, I was being sarcastic back to her. That's one of the things I do have. I do have the sarcasm gene in me. I said, so she said, no, write it. So I wrote her a poem. I wrote her Trees for All Seasons. 4 poems, winter, spring, summer, and fall. And it worked. It got me into an appreciation. It gave me more respect for why I was doing it, to protect not only people, but the world and nature. So that was another experience. And that's one of the chapters in the book. It's called Extraordinaire. It's just a series of poems that I wrote about silent sentinels, which are trees. And I have taken pictures of trees as they change during the season. So it got me in touch with nature. I lived in upstate New York after we moved from northern New Jersey because of the way it was turning out in the schools. They were dangerous, and moved to the Catskill Mountains in New York. My friends were 4 or 5 people that lived within a mile of me and the woods. I spent a lot of time with trees and nature, brooks, exploring in the lake. So that's what she wanted me to do. She wanted me to get this other side, because I was, as I said, I was rendering safe AEDs, tactics, techniques, and procedures. And she said, you're losing your soul. You're losing that gentle side. And she always knew that I was a clown, but she wanted me to get in touch. So that was one of the inspirations. So I'm blessed. It was a brilliant call on her part.
Definitely. I mean, what interesting foresight, and what a love letter from beyond she was thinking of.
That's
and
right.
You've turned it into this amazing book that inspires other people, that makes a difference in their lives. And how do you think this will resonate with them? We've often talked on the show about how sharing our stories, sharing our cathartic moments in life, help other people identify they're not alone, and that there's a blueprint for a roadmap out of the valley that they're in sometimes. How do you feel it's going to resonate with readers?
People asked what the legacy is. I had to bare my soul, and that was difficult. I mean, to share some of the things. But once I did, people resonated with it. I'm not telling anybody how to navigate this experience. You give advice, a lot of people have gone through that. My advice is that whatever emotion you're feeling, whatever grief you're feeling, is right. You've got to understand it. You've got to learn where you are. And I always say that, you have to celebrate the life, but you also have to celebrate the afterlife love letter. The first word that's picked by Teresa. She picked that word. It's afterlife. She wanted me, she said in that letter, we moved to a condo development, 20 small condos, 20 population. And when we were there, there's several ladies in Tollgate, where I live, in Worthington, Ohio. She said to me one night, it's a target-rich environment because there's beautiful ladies in there. And I said, you got to be kidding me. She says, no, I'm just planning. She said, someday in the letter, I want you to find someone else to whom you'll say you'll do. That's the charity. That's the love. That tells you the true love that she had.
Yeah, really.
She left it on our kids. Our kids are the same. So, we all turned out okay because of her and my mom and the like. But I'm not telling you how to do it. I'm saying to go with it. And it doesn't, there's not a time function in this equation. If you look at, she passed away in 2008. And it took me a while. I buried myself in my work. Yep. Got a little burnt out. I flinched once and my team said, maybe you got too much going on in your head. And so I recalled myself and just try to you got to get things in order. Need support.
Yeah.
One of the programs at the Kobacker House in Columbus, Ohio, is where she worked as a hospice nurse. They have a bereavement program. So I went to the bereavement program where one of the hospice nurses worked. And I heard from all the other nurses about what a clown she was. They told stories about her that were unbelievable that I never heard. But it's a bereavement. And it's the way to get through it is really to share. You're not alone. A lot of people are afraid to talk about it. I was, you want to bury it. It's bad. It's over. But she said to me once, Teresa, she quoted something that I had quoted to her long before. I used to hang with a lot of NATO people in my profession, and there were the Italians who lived life to the fullest. They said, you Americans eat to survive. We Italians eat to be entertained. And because you whoop down a sandwich for lunch and we're going to have a 3-hour meal.
Yeah.
But one of them, his name was Dante. He goes, we're talking about, because of the nature of us, trying to defeat roadside bombs that are designed to kill, maim, and burn innocent people. I don't believe in war. Okay. I worked for the Department of Defense. I worked on the survivability side.
Yeah.
Not the offensive side, although I could, but I went on to try to keep people alive. I don't believe in war. If whoever wants to volunteer and do this, I respect them. I just want to keep them alive.
Sure.
But he said one night, he goes, you're dead a long time. And I go, so she tells me this, in her passing days, she goes, I just want you to know something. One of those quotes, it was Dante, she goes, he said, you're dead a long time. It's what's left over. You've got to have hope that something's going to change. And this is what I thought of when I wanted to do this interview with you, is I just explained to you, I lost a beautiful woman, Angel, a wife for 36 years. Did all these things for me and with me. And when she passed away, I said to myself, what am I going to do next? I was lost. I was stunned. And it was then that I find the notebook, How to Get Along Without Me. And then I find the love letter. And in there, she tells me to write my stories.
Wow.
So she was directing me. Again, she was paying it forward. And that's what I'm doing here is you've got the rest of your life to live, to laugh, live, and love again. That's your option. Go comfortably. It's just like aging, comfortably age as you grow older. I'm 75 and a quarter now, and it's just age gracefully. Do it gracefully, but you need support. You need sharing. I've had several people, lots of reviews written that they say they relate to their personal experience,
Wow.
whether it's their wife or their husband. I've talked to several people who've lost their spouses, and I just sit with them and share with them. And it's that community. There's hope. You have to recover and get back in the game of life and at the speed of life. One of the other stories that I have is I had a dear friend through soccer. I mean, great guy. He was a pilot, National Guard. He flew tankers over New York during 9/11. Great guy, great referee. Worked games together, went through wars together as referees, as you can imagine. I learned new words every time I referee, and I knew about my parentage and my mother and my ancestry every call I made. But a dear friend, always there, reliable. Teresa passes away. His wife is Teresa without the H. I think it was about 3 weeks after my wife passed away, I get a call at 3:00 in the morning. Okay, phone rings. I answered it. He goes, I'll be right over. He said, I'll be right over. Pizza and beer. See you in 15 minutes. Okay, what the hell? I mean, I'm confused. There's a lot of things going on in your head. 15 minutes later, he shows up, pizza and beer. My favorite beer. He sits down, and I'm saying, what's going on here? He sits down and he says to me, I'm confused about the new offside interpretation. Could you explain to me how it is? Now, I'm a national instructor, former pro referee, national instructor, assessor. Soccer has been part of my world. Teresa I said to her, she goes, what sport do you like? And I said soccer. And she goes, I hate soccer. She's a bigger fan than everyone. She grew up with the Columbus Crew. I mean, she loves soccer. She knows all the referees' names, their wives. They tell stories about their husbands. It's all great. And wives now. But I said to him, it's deflection versus deliberate. And I gave him an instruction. He goes, thanks. He says, I got it now. He says, I hope you get back on the field with me later. And he leaves. Never talked about what just happened. It was that distraction. That distraction is what I'm trying to do. It's more than a distraction that I tell you the stories. I purposely placed stories in there to put you in different circumstances. I had to find the letters to do it.
Yeah.
That was hard, excuse me. But it's really just to put you through a series of emotional gyrations, if you will, to get you in the mood, to get you past the first one, the first story about tragedy. And I will talk about my ups and downs, and I'll talk about trees and stars and sunrises. I'll talk about things that go bump in the night. History. I talk about stones. You've seen the cover of the book. I have it here if I can show it, but there it is. These are lucky stones. They're stones that have holes that you can see through them.
Oh.
And this is one from the cover. It's in the middle here.
Mm-hmm.
But I find these, I've collected these. Now, this is a story called Under Your Sole of Your Foot. And these are lucky stones. And I just found the stones like this. And I said, I never found out why there's a hole in them. But as I got on and got a little philosophical in my life, I imagine these holes as being portals to the other world. It's the world that you can look through and dream that you wish you were on. And again, if there is a history there, if you're a good witch, you can do happy things with them. If you're a bad witch, they're called hagstones. I'm not a bad witch. I don't put any curses on anybody. But I imagined when I wrote the story that these are portals to the other world that you can be in. You can be happier. You can be more content. You can be at peace. And as I imagine, as you can imagine it, what you need to do is turn it around and you can be there. You can be happy. And again, it's not easy. I'm not trying to, downplay the difficulty of doing this, but you can be in a better state of mind. You can go to a safe place, go to your safe place, your safe haven, and then have comfort with friends. If you want to be alone, if you don't want to talk about it, but eventually you have to come up for air and breathe. In fact, on my desk says breathe. You have to breathe after these experiences. You have to do this. So these are lucky stones, and people go, oh, they must be very rare. Okay, they are. I have over 400 in my collection. In fact, there's trays of them behind me. I have them all sizes, all colors, grays, browns. We have 2 color ones like we have here. I found them on riverbed. I found them on the Atlantic, Pacific, Gulf of America or Mexico, whichever you prefer. Again, I am apolitical because of the nature of the work I do. I don't care what your politics are. People killing people are, my daughter said my dad has a job security because he's trying to settle disputes among differences among organized religions on the planet. I'm going, that's a little bit harsh. Started out with the Irish and Catholic and Protestant bombers in Belfast, and then went to the Israelis and the Palestinians, and then Muslims, infidels, and now we got just about everybody fighting everybody. I have job security, unfortunately. I'm still active, not to do the heavy lifting. But again, it's just to make you think and wonder about it. So I found them on Atlantic, Pacific, Gulf, Great Lakes, riverbeds, several countries, including Afghanistan, when I was there last. And people say, it must be very difficult to find. I said, you walk with your head down and you look at the stones and you see one with a hole in it, and you pick it up and you see if there's a hole on the bottom. I said, I'm a PhD combustion engineer, explosives, propellants. I am a PhD rocket scientist, although I usually work on the front end. I said, picking up these stones is not rocket science. Attempt at humor.
Rocket science.
It's rocket. So it's, yeah. So those are novelties. And when I go to book signings, I'm going to the LA Times Festival of Books in 2 weeks as a featured author. When they sign the book, I will give them a little Lucky Stone. And I don't know how many. I mean, I've been to LA Times 2 years ago. I'm going, and the Printers Row Literature Festival. I give them a little baggie with the little miniature Lucky Stone in it.
Mm.
They now have something. They put it on their bracelets. They put it on their necklaces. It's like a little memento. It's a memory. It's a new memory that they can use. And people, I mean, I was surprised at how many people. I mean, people came back and wanted more. I gave out all my supply, but those are the little things, is to grab a hold of something that you believe in. People have lucky stuffed animals. We had a stuffed animal. His name was Elio the elephant that I would talk to my wife, as a little puppet, make jokes just to lighten her up. Anything you need to do to get through life and to get into recovery and to get back into everything that's going on.
What a beautiful story. I mean, what a beautiful thing. And the fact that you're sharing it, tragedy happens. We share our stories of life and blueprints. So as we go out, give people a final pitch out to order the book at .com, somewhere they can get to know you better, et cetera, et cetera.
You want my,
final pitch out to people to pick up the book, and any .coms where you want people to find you on the interweb or learn more.
It's available where you ready? My daughter lives in LA and she said, practice this, Dad, practice. It's available where all fine books are sold.
Yeah.
But what I want, the final pitch is, there's befuddling mysteries in this book. There's some bizarro happenings. There are some cryptic conspiracies. There's wholesome humor and puns. There's inspirational and uplifting stories. There's some melancholic, mesmerizing memory moments like I've just described. There's perspectives. There's perseverance against all odds in your life. You're not the only one. There's practical jokes that were played on me by my father, and I play on others. Always surprise outcomes. The power of true love in life and after death. Resiliency, recovery, sarcasm, and rock and roll. Tears from both sadness and joy. Some unique personalities, resiliencies, and wonders, and then finally some sheer zaniness. I'll be silly. And what I want you to realize is that I want all the readers to come away with a rejuvenated belief, hope, joy, and warmth in their hearts, minds, and souls, that we're all on this wonderful world together, spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. And I want to give comfort and solace and peace to them and their times of trials, and then to enjoy their joy more. And Gunky always leaves with this: reason, peace, and love will prevail. You must believe.
You must believe. Wisdom of words for us as we go out. Thank you very much for coming to the show. We really appreciate it, Jim.
I really appreciate this time. I always, I ask the question, what am I going to do next after her passing? Here we are.
There you are.
It's an adventure, and I'm blessed and humbled, and I appreciate the opportunity to do this with you and share it to the world. And I always say, be seeing you.
Thank you very much, Jim. And what a beautiful, wonderful story to share with people. What a beautiful thing that your wife left behind to not only help you, but help other people. And just wonderful. So thank you very much, Jim, for coming to the show. Thanks, Ron, for tuning in. Order the book wherever fine books are sold. Gunky's Adventures in the Land of Must Believe, out August 6, 2019. Thanks, Ron, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, the TikTokity, and all those crazy places in it. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. And that should have us out, Jim.